Welcome to Inside Pitch. I'm Jeff Gordon here with Post-Dispatch columnist Lynn. We've been talking for several weeks now about the runway and the young hitters and them trying to take advantage of the runway and take off with their careers. It's been a process. All three guys that we've talked about have had interesting times here lately. Let's talk with some good news. Start with some good news with Jordan Walker. Put together a modest hitting streak and then had some slug to go with it. He's smiling. He's excited. He's making progress. It's a starting point. He's over the Mendoza line. He's been productive. He's having fun. Looks like a good sign.
Yeah, I think you used the key word progress. I mean, it's not to say he's on a trajectory where he's all of a sudden going to be in an all-star game this season or anything like that. But I think in the last 12 games, he's hitting like over 340. The OPS is over 900. Still a lot of strikeouts in there. I think it's like 11 strikeouts in that stretch. But at the same time, you're seeing some clutch hitting. You're seeing him show some emotion. And clearly, maybe the most important part is that the stretch that he had before, where he'd been really struggling, hasn't gotten him down. So I think you see some positives and, again, progress with him.
Am I the only one that wants to see him become a little more aggressive? I hate to see him get behind in the count, then hate taking pitches in the zone, and then hate to see him chasing pitches, the inevitable slider breaking off the plate or the sweeper. I'd love to see him try to ambush more pitchers and just change up a bit. And maybe as he gets more confidence, we'll see more of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because, when there's some pitchers who are going to go up there and just say, we're going to throw that off the corner outside, and if you want to be aggressive, you're just going to flail at it. But at the same time, you think about that, the game-winning RBI that he had against Arizona, I think, in the second game against one of their relief pitchers who's throwing, like upper 90s. He goes out there swinging. First pitch, I think he fouled off, and then the second pitch, he lines into center to drive in the go-ahead run. So the aggressiveness obviously paid off there. To me, it's just more of him seeing the ball well, sticking with his game plan, not getting too aggressive, but picking his spots and staying within himself.
Now, another guy we've talked a lot about as a runway guy, Lars Nootbaar, his challenge coming into the season was to stay healthy, which he has done. The challenge becomes when you're healthy, you're playing a lot, is the grind can catch up with you, Lynn, and the grind did catch up with Lars for a while, and he may have fought his way out of it with his big game against the Orioles, but he was starting to show some wear.
Yeah, he'd been, in the month of May. I mean, after a hot start in the month of May, he had a stretch there where I think he was like 4 for 32 or something like that, which was just, for a leadoff guy who prides himself on getting on base and had been a table setter. He had just a rough stretch there where he wasn't really producing a whole lot. But again, against Baltimore, he gets a base hit, gets a home run, seems like he's starting to get out of it. But he's played on a regular basis, which has been the biggest thing for him. He'd have, stretches where you'd see things that would really get you excited, and then he'd have stretches where he wouldn't be available because he'd be hurt, he'd be on the IL. And he's been available just about every day this season, so that's a big step for him.
A guy who got healthy and has been available for a bit, Nolan Gorman, has had trouble getting at bats. Some minor injuries popped up, and the team was able to use its depth to get him some more looks. Had a couple good swings in there, and again, he had a little bit of slug as well. But it's just, right now, it's difficult to continue getting him regular work with all these other guys, including Jordan Walker, starting to go now.
Yeah, his at-bats just have been, his at-bats have been getting better, but his bats have been few and far between compared to what you thought when you think about runway. And we knew that was going to be a little bit tough at the beginning of the season because, Arenado's still here, and so that third base spot would have been a place where you could get some time. That's not really open for him now. And now with, Ivan Herrera getting some DH time, that really puts a strain on, at-bats between Burleson, Walker, Herrera, trying to get Contreras at first base as well as Burleson. So there's not that many at-bats to go around. But he has been showing, some signs that he's making progress too, not necessarily the extended look that we looked at with Walker, but there's some signs of progress there. It's a matter of him being able to build on that with not really getting regular time.
Another guy that just has to play, Victor Scott II, continues to just amaze us. He looks like he's a 30-year-old veteran who's been around for 8 years playing in the big leagues. The way he handles his business, the way he approaches the game, it's so impressive. A lot of guys put the work in. He puts the work in smart and gets results.
Yeah, and he's also not one of these guys who's trying to reinvent the game. He's actually doing the opposite. He's going back and looking at some players from, 20, 30, 40 years ago and sort of taking pages out of their book, starting with, a guy like Willie McGee, who had been with the Major League staff before, he looks at as a mentor, whether it's taking pages from Tony Gwynn, whether it's looking at somebody like Ichiro or Brett Butler, that's sort of his basis, and then he goes from there. And he's got an old school type of game between, not swinging for the fences, trying to hit base hits, steal bases, use speed, a great defender. So there's a lot to like about his game.
All right, that's Lynn Worthy. I'm Jeff Gordon. Reminder that you can see all of our extra content, our videos, the podcast, all the extra written word content that we produce for the digital edition of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. All of that's over at stltoday.com. We appreciate your support of local journalism. Until next time, for Lynn, I'm Jeff. See ya.